So I am representing this, $1 billion group inside Wipro, a $6 billion company, and I'm going to these small startups, 20 million, 50 million types. And I'm talking about their founders, telling us why they should get acquired, what's their strategy. I'm like, no, we don't want to acquire a company like this. Our focus is only 75% services, 25% products. Show me your revenue, show me your P&L. I'm like, they're saying, no, ours is only a product company. I put my sweat in blood, saying, no, it doesn't interest me. Sorry. And the way I look at it now, I was a fool. I used to look at those founders and those small companies with such disdain, saying, I'll acquire you. I have money. I'm studying you, so I am probably at a higher pedestal than you are, and I was foolish. I think I learned a lot from those days, because as I'll tell you a little later, that experience helped me build some of the products that I did later. So that was the part that I missed. Thanks for bringing me back on track.
Sure. All right, pre-sales then.
Finally,
Now that you got a lot of experience there.
Finally that happened. So my day one in pre-sales, my vertical head Manoj Punja, he comes and says, there's an RFP. It's a blind RFP. And I said, what's blind RFP? He's saying, nobody has worked on it, no relationship, they don't know why they should be inviting Wipro. But it's just come to us, why don't you handle it? I said, okay, low risk, no expectations, let me do it. This is my day one. He's saying, by the way, it looks like a big RFP, okay? You might be ending up but I want to give it to you anyway. I said, okay, but why me? This day one and so many people, and your pre-sales team is all 15 years, 20 years. I'm just a rookie, I'm still learning. I don't even know what pre-sales means. He's saying, don't worry, that's what I need. I'm like, everybody needs no experience. What is it so special about no experience? I'm here to gain experience. He's saying, no. I think a lot of people here, they know how to write answers to RFPs. So if you come from a fresh perspective, I hope we'll be able to win this. I don't want to write responses in RFPs and send it out and not hear anywhere again on that proposal. I said, fair enough. Let me see what I can do. So we do that. It was a very tight timeline, 10 days or 15 days. Because it's a blind RFP, there's no BDM in US working on it, it's only me. So at night I'm sending emails and thinking, can I get more answers? And nobody is supposed to reply to your questions during the RFP stages. So we're making assumptions. I have an architecture team, I have a team which I have gathered from across verticals and horizontals. We put together a response, send it out, and Manoj says, good, we met the timeline, let me see what happens. And by the way, I didn't tell you that this CIO and the proposal came from ADP, which is a $4.5 billion organization in 2007. See, by the way, the CIO is my friend. So it was not really blind RFP. He just said, Manoj, see if your company also wants to participate. I already have a list of selected vendors, but nobody referred Wipro. I'm just giving it to you because you're my friend. I said, what? You didn't tell me that? So I could have at least treated it a little differently. He said, what differently? You already treated it. So he comes back from US after a couple of weeks and says, I met the CIO. You know what he said? He came back with 500-page printout on his shoulders. And he said, who wrote this? And Manoj is saying, yeah, my team. He's saying, what do I do with it? Where do I start? What do I read in this? Take it back. I don't have time to read this. Manoj comes back and says, who wrote this? Obviously there is a big team, so he doesn't know who wrote this. So I say, I wrote it. He's saying 500 pages in 10 days? How much do you write? I'm like, no, there's something wrong. I only wrote a 60-page RFP. And then I figured that 440 pages were the attachments that Wipro was used to attach in the appendix. And ADP guys printed everything that was good. So I said, Manoj, I think if he only reads those 60 pages, there will be some better feedback. So he said, okay, let me try. So he goes back and he says, you know what, I think this guy, and their headquarters is in Hyderabad. I think the CIO is going to come in Hyderabad and he wants to meet you, or the team. I said, good, why not? So I go to Hyderabad. He says, there's a proposal presentation, okay? I'm like, who's presenting? Saying, you. I said, excuse me, this is my maybe week 6th or 7th in pre-sales, and you're expecting me to do a proposal presentation to ADP CIO? He said, yeah, for the same reason, because you can look at it differently. I said, okay, if you're saying, then he's currently, by the Manoj is currently the CEO of Wipro US. So he's a very strong businessman, and for some reason I'm glad that he looked at few things that I didn't look at myself. But I go to Hyderabad and I make a presentation. So the CIO stops me in the middle of the presentation and says, you know what, now that we have non-disclosure, Cognizant is our incumbent. They already know my systems. They have given a Java solution. For a reason, because all my application stack is Java. Oracle exposes Java APIs. It's only Wipro who's given a .NET solution. Can you explain? And there's silence. Obviously, because I don't know the answer, so I'm looking at my architect and saying, excuse me, did you know Oracle exposes Java APIs? And so I say, okay, there's crisis, let me do something. I said, John, whatever his name was, I don't remember. John, I think we made certain assumptions because we were not given answers. So if you are saying there's a problem in .NET solution, let me understand why. He's saying it's very simple. Java to Java, there's no response lag, it all works fine, performance is very high. But when you introduce a .NET, you're creating a layer in between. So when the two systems talk through a layer, response lag time, simple. I said, okay, it makes sense. What you're saying is makes sense, but how much? I think it's going to be milliseconds, microseconds, and I can prove that to you. I said, okay, why not? I said, okay, give me 1 week's time. Let me get back to you. We pull together the best minds in Wipro, do a small POC and say, in this scenario, for this integration, let's do a Java.NET POC. And I show them the results. Like, look, there's no difference. The kind of data you're talking, it doesn't make sense if it's Java or .NET. We got the deal, $3.2 million, my first deal, my first... And the CIO says, look, you have to come to US and you have to tell us how to implement it. Like, what? Really? Aren't there supposed to be architects and project managers? Like, no, well, you stitch this together. So I go and sit in US for 3 weeks. And I used to sleep during the presentations that those EDP guys used to make us. And the program manager, she was a nice lady. She used to say, hey, you're still in the jet lag. I said, yeah, plus this is not interesting. I don't understand whatever you're talking. She's saying, okay, fair enough, take a cup of coffee. But those 3 weeks were very exciting because I didn't understand anything what they said. But they had the confidence that here's a guy sitting in the room who has written what has to be done and he knows our strategy. I'm like, actually, yes, I'm the guy. 3 weeks, we got the deal, it's happening. So I come back and Manoj says, there's another RFP. Now you've graduated and that's just the second month, right? Here's, I think, a multi-million deal from American Airline. I want you to lead the deal. I said, Manoj, are you serious? I just did a blind RFP. Maybe it was a blind that I played in, like you play in cards. And I was lucky. How the hell do you think I can run a 10 million, 12 million RFP? Saying, no, I think you'll do fine. And I read the RFP, it's a 240-page RFP. I took 3 days to even read through the RFP. And then you have to obviously set up your own team. I'm setting up my team. I don't even know who's the best guy to do the RFP. There's nobody in Wipro who could have done that RFP. There was no skill set, no case studies. It was revenue management, the most complex field for airline body. So I go out and I say, okay, who's done it? So I find a partner. And I say, these guys are small, but now the merger and acquisitions experience is telling me that these guys are smart. They're not small. It's a 20 million company who's created this 50 people company just doing revenue management. I think he's the ideal guy to bring in and talk to American Airlines and say, my product can do it for you and Wipro has the right people to deliver. I said, come in. But then that was not enough because somebody had to talk. These guys could talk about their product but not about the strategy. So we figured there's another small boutique 10 people consulting company in the US who's only done airline consulting in the world. And I said, okay, let's get them over. And then people are saying, are you crazy? For an American airline RFP 10 million, you're bringing a 10 people team and telling the CIO of American Airlines that these guys will give you the strategy? And I said, what's wrong with that? They are the experts. But the general convention was that you need big consulting companies to come and tell American Airlines. I said, I don't believe in that. These guys know what they have done. So there are 3 teams. There's this 10 people consulting company, there's product company, and there's Wipro presenting to American Airlines. And the contenders are IBM, Accenture, all the big guys. Wipro is final 2. There's IBM and there's TCS and there's Wipro. And everybody's happy, saying, Anubhav, you've done it again. I said, yeah, but that's just a short listing. Let's hear. So it's a 11.5 million deal. Everybody's happy. TCS says we'll do it in $7.5 million.